So, hello everybody, my name is Carlos Alvarez, head of A&R and publishing for Azteca Music Group, Azteca Records in Dallas, Texas. And we're making this quick video clip to share with everybody some information out there that's viewing us on social media and any other channels you're seeing this on. And we have our guest today with our good friend from New York, Jason Pascal, the VP of New Catalog Acquisition, is that correct?
Catalog development.
Catalog development. Okay, so we got a couple of questions here, some items that some of his good knowledge and information that he can share with all of us out there in the industry. So number one, Jason, what are some of the biggest challenges that the music industry is experiencing right now?
I would say there's one big challenge that the music industry has faced, and it's a long one and a big one, and it's an obvious one in many ways, which is just the move to digital exploitation. It sounds very obvious, but to think about it in a larger scale manner, you have to dig a little bit deeper and think about how long a process this really is. What we're in the middle of right now is a 20-year, roughly, period of disruption. This disruption period started with Napster and possibly is coming to maybe near its end now with the complete move to a consumption model, streaming, rental model, different phrases that people have used instead of ownership. So this very large shift from physical to digital, and this period of disruption really has taken 20 years to shake out. And there are people that have gained in this period of 20 years, there are people who have lost, and there are people who have maintained. But I think at this point in 2018, now just about 20 years after Napster, I think that we are slowly peering out of the smoke and fog and understanding what at least the short-term future might look like.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. How has the industry adapted to these changes? Any kind of examples there of people that have adapted?
I think initially not very well.
Yeah.
When digital became a reality as file sharing, there was a tremendous amount of resistance to it as a method of distribution, as a method of consumption. There were legal issues at the time, and there were many reasons to fight it, but I think the fight clouded the judgment of those in power who were only focused on the fight and not focused on the fact that digital ultimately and technology ultimately would change the methods of distribution. So, as I said, initially not very well, but now moving from downloading to streaming, I would say most of us are ready for that change, and there's a little bit of confusion and indecision about when it happens. But I think that with YouTube launching a new music service, with Facebook getting ready to launch a music product, I think that we're all very optimistic about what new revenue streams might look like and growing revenue streams might look like.
You think it's safe to say that like the industry, the powers that be had to give in to what the audience was consuming? I mean, at the end of the day, everybody was clicking. I mean, as much as you want to give a strike or, oh, this is my content, this is my copyright, etc., etc., the audiences were still sharing, clicking, reposting, uploading to YouTube. They had, I don't want to say they gave up, but now they had to give in to what the consumer was using in terms of platforms.
I think in the past, when you read books about the history of the music industry, the powers that be, the powers that were very much in charge, and they figured out how to extract large amounts of money from a single track that people might have liked. When you could not separate every track in a CD or pull them off of a CD, if there was one hit song on that CD, well, you had to pay $18.98 for that CD, and that was a huge profit for the record label. now that people are listening track by track, and we're back in a way to the age of singles, what I think in the more recent history that the industry has done well is listen to what the consumer wants. The consumer no longer wants to own, and that's a statement about society in general, that they no longer want or need to own things. They're perfectly fine renting things, and ownership is just an illusion in many ways. And when you're renting instead of owning, you have access to a lot more material. It broadens the horizons of the listener, of any consumer of art. You can consume volumes of movies and music, and the breadth of what you know is a lot wider, and perhaps it means a more educated music fan.
Yeah, most definitely. What is the forecast for streaming? I mean, it's continuing to grow, but where are we going from here, do you think? What's next?
Well, there are numbers that people throw out, and I'm not that familiar with any of those numbers. What I know is that it's growing month over month, quarter over quarter. I still think there's plenty of room for growth in terms of a subscriber base. The percentages of people in the United States alone that actually subscribe to a music service are fairly small as compared to the population. And then when you look at countries like Mexico, Brazil, Turkey, parts of Asia, all throughout South and Central America, there's still a tremendous growth opportunity and room for new models to get people using music services. There's a tremendous amount of free and ad-supported consumption on Pandora, on YouTube, on Spotify, but there's still room for creative new business models to get people to pay for music, and with that in mind, I think there's still a tremendous amount of growth to be had in the size of the business overall.
So you mentioned these territories, non-US. So let's talk about Latin music. We're here, right? You're here in our office. So Latin music is rising. It's growing. It's continuing to grow. Why do you think the boom again? I mean, we had the first Latin boom, what, with Ricky Martin, late 90s, something like that, and then all of a sudden kind of just stayed there. And now we have this new rise, and not just Latin pop, but it's all Latin subgenres. Any particular things that you guys are seeing that attribute to that, or?
I can only surmise that it's tied to the growth of Spanish-speaking populations around the world as Latin cultures of all kinds become more prevalent in the United States, as populations in other countries continue to grow. Their respective cultures, food, clothing, movies, their general customs and family, the way that people run their lives continues to grow. So the more Latinos there are in the world, the more listeners there will be of Spanish-speaking, of Spanish-language music, and the more growth potential there is for companies like Azteca.
Cool. Jason, thanks for the time. Thanks for making the trip down to Dallas to hang out with us and talk, and we look forward to many more years of working together. And on behalf of everybody here in the office, thanks for just, making the trip down from New York. We appreciate it.
Igual.